Roger Joseph and Melissa Jane BLUML were well liked in their hometown of Valley Center, Kansas, United States, a predominantly rural neighborhood north of Wichita. Melissa was the vice president of Chisholm Trail State Bank, and she and her husband Roger, a supplier contractor with BLUML Contracting Supply, were involved in their community. In 2002, unable to conceive their own children, the couple adopted Anthony, 7, and Christopher, 5, through an adoption agency. The boys were the offspring of Keisha Denise Skaberg, a 24-year-old single mother who had had a child as a teenager. Skaberg and her daughter from her former partner Robert Swank were living in San Diego, California, with her amorous female friend, Sean Hamilton. Hamilton said that Skaberg was sad when her children were adopted, but was relieved that the BLUMLs were committed to retain them. Anthony BLUML went to Valley Center High School, where he was a top wrestler, and wanted to join the Air Force, but everything changed when he was caught consuming marijuana during his senior year. As a result, Tony was evicted from the house after a quarrel with his parents, forcing him to work as a server in a restaurant and sell marijuana to support himself. He was arrested for assault in June 2013, followed by an arrest for drunk driving a month later. When Tony reconnected with Skaberg on Facebook in August 2013, he was pleased. The mother and son quickly began talking about their shared disdain for the BLUMLs. Skaberg felt the BLUMLs were isolating her from her children, and Tony was distraught over being booted out. He also felt that his adoptive parents favored his brother Christopher. When he requested his brother return to their biological mother, Chris declined, making him furious. Later, Tony told Skaberg that he was certain he would inherit the BLUML family estate, so they devised a plan to murder the BLUMLs. On November 15, 2013, Anthony persuaded his adoptive parents to go out for supper. Meanwhile, Chris attended a wrestling bout. Skaberg then invited Andrew Ellington, who had been introduced by Tony's buddy Braden Smith, who had withdrawn due to fear. However, Smith played a role in obtaining the murder weapon. Skaberg and Ellington then waited in the BLUMLs' home, while robbing their valuable items and cash. When the BLUML family returned and were still inside the car, Skaberg shot them in the head. Chris discovered his parents dying in the car at 9 p.m. that day, and immediately phoned the police. The police were able to immediately identify the offenders because of Chris' information on Tony, who had a quarrel with the BLUML family, despite claiming that he split up with them after supper on the day of the incident. And Skaberg, a person whom Tony and his friend Braden Smith, a friend of Andrew Ellington, were living with. Melissa Jane BLUML, 53, died in the hospital on November 16, 2013, followed by Roger Joseph BLUML, 48, 5 weeks later. On May 15, 2015, Skaberg, 35, and Tony, 18, pleaded not guilty to premeditated murder and aggravated robbery. However, they were found guilty and condemned to life in prison in June 2015, with no possibility of parole. A week after Skaberg and Tony were sentenced, Ellington was sentenced to life in jail with the chance of parole after 25 years. Braden Smith, who delivered the guns to Keisha Skaberg and Andrew Ellington, received a plea deal because he did not take part in the murder. In exchange for his evidence against the other 3 offenders, he was sentenced to a minimum of 24 years in October 2015.